Hello, hello, friends. It has been a hot minute since I've recorded for Koriko. Life has been a little bit crazy, and so we're changing up the format of how we do Koriko a little bit. Right now, I really don't have time to consistently stream on Twitch, and so I want to keep this story going. So we're going to switch it over to a YouTube only upload. The hope is to upload these videos weekly on Sundays, but we'll see if life lets me do that. Today, we are going to start a new volume called Arrival, which is the second volume in our story of Kestrel Larkspur and the city of Koriko. Before this, we experienced the journey as Kestrel left her home village and embarked on the 3-day journey to the city of Koriko. Upon her arrival, she was mesmerized by the city that had been built on top of a lake. But she realized quickly that people seemed to regard her with suspicion and not welcome. Possibly more suspicion than one might expect for a witch invited to a city. In talking with a gentleman who sold her a cup of Koriko hot cocoa, she learned the story of Tilvi, a witch who had previously lived in the city of Koriko when it was the floating city and not the city on the lake. We learned that the original Koriko was a city that floated above the sky, powered by the witch Tilvi. Something happened, however, which we haven't learned, and Tilvi dropped the city from the sky, destroying it. This has led to many years of the citizens of Koriko having rebuilt their city on the lake on top of the ruins of the old city, regarding witches as suspicious and untrustworthy. Kestrel learned that she is the first witch to be invited to the city since this incident, and so a lot of pressure is sitting on her shoulders to show the people of Koriko that witches aren't malevolent and that whatever happened with Tilvi is not something that Kestrel will let happen again. Before we start the Arrival volume, there are a few mechanics that we need to introduce. We are now going to be using both the dice tower and we're going to be using the tarot deck to pull our prompts. For each volume, you set an intention, which is creating the volume deck. In the Arrival, we have 2 cards from each suite deck added into our volume deck. We'll only pull 7 of these cards, but we have shuffled them and randomized them to the best of our ability. You'll also see here a grid of twists, which we will pick one of each for each of the prompts that we pull. Some of these twists are risky, and in risky twists, we have to add dice to our dice tower. Now, I don't have a good way of recording right now to show the dice tower, but I'm sure you'll hear it once it falls. So we will be adding dice to our dice tower for every risky maneuver we take. Because we are doing these videos now on YouTube exclusively, I'm going to be doing shorter runs with 2 prompts for each video, which will give us approximately 4 episodes for each volume. So, with that said, let's go ahead and get started, shall we? I'm gonna shuffle the deck again just to make sure that it is properly mixed. I set this up a while ago when my intention was to record, and then life kind of got in the way there. Okay, so the deck is now shuffled, so let's pull our first prompt for the day. Okay, we have pulled the Knight of Cups, which means we have to go to the cups to see what our prompt is going to be. Okay, the Knight of Cups. A traveler arrives after a long and brutal journey carrying a precious message. How did their travails break them? How do you help them recover? And what message was worth all this trouble? Immediately, my thought is this should be a message from the Citadel. The Citadel floats above it all as a place for witches to be trained in magic. This is not the way that Kestrel learned how to do her craft. Kestrel learned directly from her Baba in her hometown. But she is aware of the Citadel, and she is aware of the witches who are trained there and embark from the Citadel into their chosen cities. For some reason, Koriko didn't ask for a witch from the Citadel. They asked for a witch from a little backwater village. And Kestrel's not too sure why that is, but she has an expectation that it's because they don't trust the witches of the Citadel. So, let's see. So let's say that our traveler comes from the Citadel, but what message might they be carrying? What is so important that they left the Citadel and traveled all the way to the city of Koriko, a city known to be unwelcoming to witches? I think perhaps this message might be a warning. Kestrel is now in a much larger pond than she had been in, and I think the Citadel realizes she has been chosen for some reason, but she does not have the training that a traditional Citadel witch would have. So maybe this is a warning or an invitation to give up her position as the Koriko witch and allow a Citadel witch to take part in Koriko. And I think that would make Kestrel angry. She hasn't been here long enough to prove herself. And already the Citadel is asking her to give up her position in Koriko, in a city that has been damaged by magic. This poor messenger, I think, is going to get the brunt of that anger. So, yeah, I think that's the story that we're going to tell. Now, we do have to pick a twist for this prompt as well. So I'm going to mess up my highlighting is what I'm going to do. We're going to put the prompt in here. Maybe. We'll see. Aha! There we go. It pasted it a little weird, but it worked. Sorry, my computer is being a little struggle bussy today. Okay, now let's go back to our arrival page. And now these are the twists that we can pick. I don't think a warm welcome fits in this. I think maybe we'll do the late night flight. And in this case, this is not a flight that Kestrel is going on. This is a flight that has woken her up in the middle of the night. So not only is this traveler bringing this message from the Citadel, which is kind of a rude, "You're not ready, let me take over for you," but it's the middle of the night, and so she is being woken up by this messenger. So how do we begin this entry? The audacity. The Citadel has been made aware of my position in Koriko as the city's witch, and they've decided to immediately butt their heads in and expect me to give up my position for them, for a Citadel witch, someone they claim will be trained properly in how to deal with the problems of Koriko. They don't even know the problems that Koriko is facing. I don't even know the problems Koriko is facing. I suppose we should start from the beginning. Oh, just thinking about it makes me mad. The middle of the night. In the middle of the night, after a long day of walking the streets of Koriko, looking for anyone who might need my help, trying to insinuate myself into the city as someone who can be trusted. My sleep, my precious sleep, is disrupted by the arrival of him. You'd think the Citadel would at least have the decorum to send a messenger at a decent time. But apparently not. Apparently, this message could not wait until tea time. It had to be delivered in the dark of night, under the cover of the sky, the night sky. Actually, given what I know about the city of Koriko, that doesn't surprise me as much as it might have otherwise. They are suspicious of witches, and I haven't seen any magic users even dabbling within the city walls. In the city limits. There are no walls around Koriko. There is kind of the lake. Maybe this messenger didn't have a choice but to arrive under the cover of night to relay this invitation to me. Nonetheless, I did welcome them into my home. It's not much, this little hovel I've claimed, but it's something. The mayor of the town has promised me a little cottage on the outskirts of the city, somewhere I can come and go as I please. But it isn't quite ready yet, and so I've elected to stay here, in the center of the city, in this little house that has been long abandoned. I'm going to miss it when I move. I like the bustling cityscape around me. But I would like to have space for a garden, like my Baba's. Somewhere to grow and cultivate my craft, where the city isn't watching my every move. Maybe one day they'll trust me enough to come on their own for help. But that, I feel, is a long ways off. In any case, I welcome the stranger into my home at the absolute butt crack of nightfall. And I even offer them tea. I remember my manners. I remember how to greet a witch of the Citadel, even if we'd never done so in my village. Tea, and something to eat, something light on the stomach after hours of flight. I don't have much, but at the moment, I'm happy to share it. The messenger looks exhausted. Surely this message could have waited, I inquire. You needn't have pushed yourself so hard, right? You look like you're ready to follow. Here, have a seat. Let me make you something. Teas to rejuvenate are something I learned early on from Baba. It was something I needed in my early days of training. Using magic, using any kind of magic, can pull from deep within the reserves of energy a witch has within them. A cup of rejuvenating tea would be just what this messenger needed. He takes it. He took it gladly. Takes it gladly, with a nod of thanks, and slides over the missive wordlessly. Slides over the missive. Directly from the Citadel, the messenger explains. Your arrival in Koriko has not gone unnoticed. Oh? At this moment, I don't know what's waiting for me. All I know is that I've arrived in a city that hasn't had a witch in years, and I'm expected to solve their problems, whatever they are. Why would the Citadel be interested in Koriko? Sure, it's a large city, but it's not the largest by far. The only thing of interest I can think of is that I'm the first since Tildy dropped the city from the sky. The messenger says nothing more, enjoying his tea and a few crumbly cookies I've managed to scrounge up for him. So I turn my attention to the letter. It's in the Citadel's very own parchment envelope, sealed with a sealed with wax, and an emblem of the Citadel of Witches. When I was younger, and magic was coming to me naturally, before I learned anything from Papa, I dreamed of going to the Citadel for lessons. Being a verified witch of the Citadel opened so many doors for so many people. Most witches aren't invited to cities as big as Koriko unless they're from the Citadel. There's an agreement, you see, that Citadel witches get first priority pick when it comes to the more desirable cities that are requesting a witch's aid. It's sort of by necessity. Finding a backwater witch like me kind of relies on knowing the villages that train witches and hoping one is available. Honestly, I still don't know why Koriko asked for me specifically. Baba never explained why the invitation came from the city, only that I'd been invited there for my year away. Maybe the mayor knew Baba, but he hasn't said anything to me about it. I'll have to ask next time I see him exactly why they chose a backwater witch like me instead of a Citadel witch. Trying to think of how to word this letter, whether or not I want to write the words within the journal or not. I crack open the seal, and before I can read beyond the first line, I feel my temper rise. Miss Kestrel Larkspur, there seems to have been an error in your assignment. While you are not a Citadel, no. Because you are not a Citadel witch, and the city of Koriko remains within the larger agreement of... I have to name the country that Koriko is in. Of Gladius between and the Citadel. Because you are not a Citadel witch, and the city of Koriko remains within the larger agreement of Gladius and the Citadel, the city of Koriko has breached its responsibility to request a Citadel witch before allowing an untrained apprentice to fulfill this position. Please be aware that this city and the scope of its concerns may be too much for you at this time in your training. For that reason, the Citadel is offering an opportunity for you to learn under a Citadel witch who will take your place as the Koriko witch, as the witch assigned to the city of Koriko. You are welcome to stay within the city if you agree to step down as the assigned witch and learn beneath our esteemed Citadel. Loliana, who should have been assigned to the city of Koriko in your stead. If you do not agree to step down, please know that the consequences may include rejection of your training and recognition as a witch in the Citadel. We hope that you see sense and allow a more venerated and experienced witch the role that you have taken unknowingly. The city of Koriko has a great need for a witch of this caliber after their long period without guidance. Please respond via the messenger as to your answer. We await your word. We await your word patiently. Elvi. No, I don't want it to be Elvi because it's too close to Tilby. Elias Thorngrove. Master Witch. They want me to give up my city. Who do they think they are? Do this. They want me to give up my city. Who do they think they are? You've got to be kidding. I speak before thinking, turning my ire to the messenger. There's a lesson here, I think. Something about not burning the messenger or the message they deliver. But I'm too angry to think about that. I've just gotten here, and you're trying to kick me out? The city didn't ask for a Citadel witch. They asked for me, specifically. Who do you think you are? Now, Miss Kestrel, I think you would agree that given the history of Koriko, it's important that that the city learns to trust a witch. And that begins by trusting the witch they invited into their walls. If they wanted a Citadel witch, they would have asked for one. They didn't. I thrust the message forward, shoving it into the chest of the messenger. It takes me a moment to remember my manners as a host, as furious as I am. With a deep sigh, I straighten my shoulders and stare down at the messenger. You are welcome to a bed, my tea, my home. But you are not welcome to my city. Citadel will not take my position as the Witch of Koriko. I will spend my year here. I will help these people, and I will rebuild the trust that Tilly lost when the city fell. This is my oath, not to the Citadel, but to the people of Koriko. There is a flood of power in my words, and I realize too late that I've cast a spell on myself with a witness. I am bound to the city of Koriko now. I am bound by my oath to help the city rebuild its trust in witches. The messenger sighs, recognizing the levity, the weight of my oath, and tucks the missive away. I thank you for your invitation, Miss Kestrel. It has been a long and difficult fight, and it will be a long and difficult fight to return to the Citadel. He pauses then, regarding me closer. Your convictions may be exactly what this city needs. The Citadel only means well, but sometimes it is hard to see what is needed from the towers that fly above. It's encouraging to hear that he understands, and I feel a wash of embarrassment flood me as I realize that this man truly is only delivering a message from Elias Thorngrip. It's not his fault the Citadel has sent him on this errand. I'm sorry for my temper, I say, adding a few cookies to his plate. Like I said, you're welcome to sleep here tonight. It's not much, but it is my home, and I open it to you. With that, and partially to avoid sticking my foot further into my mouth or casting any more spells without thinking, I leave him to his tea and his cookies to set up a new cot of blankets and hay on the opposite side of my own. Like I said, it isn't much, but it's home. I do look forward to having a proper bed soon, but this isn't so bad. After his tea and cookies, the messenger retires to his cot, and I retire to mine. I'm exhausted. My temper has fizzled away. Now I'm just tired. I feel the mantle of my oath settle around my shoulders, and I'm acutely aware that this is going to be harder than I expected. This is not some little city with little troubles. I have a lot of work to do to rebuild what Tilby broke. And now I have the eyes of the Citadel watching my every move. No pressure. I think that is where we're going to end this entry, which kind of got away from me a little bit, but I like where it has set up. Now we have Kestrel has declared her oath to the city of Koriko, which has instilled certainly a bit of power into her words and her claim on the city. And we see for the first time her temper really get away from her as she turns her ire on this poor messenger who admits that the Citadel might not know what is best for the city of Koriko. There are politics at play here that Kestrel is unaware of and is not prepared for. So, that is our first entry for the arrival to Koriko. Let's see what the next day brings. Now we have checked off the late night flight as one of our twists. Let me see if I can edit this. Oh, I can't edit it without paying for it. Okay, we'll just remember. Actually, I'm going to keep track of this off screen so that we know which ones have been checked off and which ones haven't. And this will go... Oh! Sorry about that. This will go into the journal with our entries so that we can keep track of which twists we have already addressed. So let me just mark this off real quick. Those lines are horrible. Let me do this. Okay. So, now we have our next prompt. Let me get rid of this text. So we get to choose our second card for the day. I'm going to shuffle again just to make sure that it's properly mixed. Okay. What card do we pick today? Our second card for the day is, the King of Swords. Okay, let's see what this is. Swords. You observe a group of devotees. What ritual, spiritual or otherwise, are they carrying out? You can tell that they've been doing this for years. What established authority is strengthened by their practice? Okay. So now we're getting into the city of Koriko and their belief system, which requires us to think about what kind of belief system already exists in this world. We know that there is magic, and we know that the magic is of a practical sort. It is the manipulation of energies in the world to create some kind of effect or reaction. So it is less calling on a god and asking for divine intervention than it is taking what is already there and manipulating it to get the desired outcome. But this does leave for question, what is the level of divinity in Gladius, in the country of Gladius, in the city of Koriko? And I think in this case, I don't necessarily think it is a group of devotees of a divine nature, but of an ancestral one. This city is built literally on the bones of the floating city of Koriko, and how does that affect the ancestral memory of this place? The survivors and those who have come after, how do they honor the city of Koriko that had once flown above it all? I think that's what these devotees are celebrating. Not the divine, but what has come before. What kind of ritual do we think would be appropriate for this memory? Because I do think that it is a memorial of sorts. I think it is the anniversary of the fall of Koriko, which has snuck up on Kestrel, who is not aware of these things. And so she is observing as an outsider for her first year the anniversary of the fall and what that means for the city of Koriko. I think the energy is solemn in a way that it is not usually. And I think that this solemn energy carries through in her interactions. So, we need to pick a twist for this entry as well. So let's see what fits this entry. Arrival. So we have your first test, a warm welcome, alone in a crowd, a rooftop chase, a morning routine, a rude awakening, prove him wrong, feeling homesick, renewed ambition, a naive mistake, genuinely scary, planting seeds, up to your knees, the last time you saw it, and set off a spark. I think, while it's not a risky twist, I think alone in a crowd fits very well with this feeling of solemnity and I think it's just true to Kestrel. She truly is alone in a crowd of people who are mourning the loss of their city that happened years ago, but they still recognize and mourn that loss every year. So how do we write this? How do we begin? The morning air brings with it a sense of sorrow that I have not experienced in the city of Koriko before. I've been here for a couple of weeks now, mostly settling into my hovel while my home is constructed and dealing with the suspicions of the people of Koriko. You come to me for aid, but that's okay. Now I'm simply hoping to establish that I am not a villain in the waiting, and I can be trusted. that requires patience, and I'm willing to give that. But this morning, the city seems quiet, heavy. It's as though a shroud has fallen over the city. The noisy marketplaces, the constant stream of music from the speakers that float above it all. It's all quiet now, somber. This requires investigation. So I don my cloak, and tug my hat on, fix my boots, and grab my mink, tucking what was his name? Sorry about that. I accidentally clicked off of the music. Okay, let's see. My story. Lavender. That's what the name was. Tucking Lavender into the pocket of my hoodie so he can ride along with me. As I leave my home, I realize the city is quiet because the streets are empty. I chose this place because of necessity and also because it's in the center of everything. So an empty street, this is eerie, unsettling. Where is everyone? By happenstance, I spot a young kid, a young child, rushing down the street in gray garb, shiny black shoes hitting the cobblestones as they run. Hey! I try to call out, chasing after the child. They pause, panting, and turn to wait for me. I skid to a stop near them, hands on my knees. Oof. What's going on? Where is everyone? There is a sense of urgency to my words. A worry. Has something happened? Is there a catastrophe? What can I do to help? It's fall day, the child replies, pointing. I follow their pointed finger and see the tail end of a crowd of people leaving the edges of the city and going out into the wilderness. Fall day? Come on! The child grabs my hand, and I am briefly amazed and delighted by the inherent trust in children. They haven't learned yet to be suspicious of the world, and so my being a witch is of no consequence. They lead me regardless, after the crowd of people. They're not leaving the city, but going to the edges of it. I nudge and maneuver my way through the crowd to get to the front to see what it is that Fall Day is. Fall Day is for. I have a sneaking suspicion, but part of me hopes that I'm wrong. If I'm right, Fall Day is not for celebration, but for grief. At the edge of the city of Koriko, where the lake takes over and ruins jut out of the water's edge, I see a group of people dressed in white. They are preparing what looks like an elaborate altar of flowers and offerings, food and clothes and what else? And gifts. As I look around, I realize that the entire city must be here, crowded around and watching this group of people in white robes, arranging and altering their offerings. I gently tug at the sleeve of an older man beside me. Excuse me? What is this all for? Hmm? What do you mean, what's it for? It's for Fall Day. The man turns to me then, and blanches. This is a look I'm familiar with, having been in Koriko for the better part of 3 weeks. Ah, you're her. His lip curls in a bit of a sneer. But he doesn't do what I expect. I expect him to turn away, ignore my presence, maybe spit on the ground as if I'm a bad omen. Fall Day, he says instead, turning his attention back to the devotees on the edge of the rooms. We give what we can to the past. The devotees, the memory holders, the remembrals. Yeah, I like that. The remembrals arrange it and burn it, so it might join our families in the afterlife. So this is the old city, I say gently, to remember the Koriko that was, and all who have passed. The man nods. Not just those who died in the city's fall, but those who have passed on since then. He turns a side eye to me, begrudging, but explaining nonetheless. Fall Day is the day for our ancestors, our families. We give what we think they need, and we send it on high to wherever they might wait for us. Wherever they might wait for us. As the final preparations are made in the city of to the altar of Koriko, the remembrals, those in white cloaks tasked with the honoring of the dead, and those who are still remembered, light the pyre, the flowers, food, the clothes. It ignites and burns. I expect the smoke to be dark, gray. but it isn't. I realized then that what's burning is not just flowers, but blooming flowers. But smoke blooms. Yeah, I like that better. But smoke blooms. The smoke that wafts from the altar is not gray, but multicolored. Colored by the flowers being burnt. Purples and whites, blues and yellows and greens. The colors swirl together in a miasmic rainbow as it floats on high. It's beautiful. It's terrible. It's been years since Toby let the city fall. Koriko has not forgotten. He never will. As the pyre burns, the crowd begins to disperse. But I stay. I want to see the end of this ritual. It burns for hours as the sun carries on across the sky. It's near nightfall when the pyre finally burns out and the remembrance begin to come back to the city in little boats. Embers linger, still giving off little wisps of smoke. But the city has returned to itself. The people have left to return to their own private ceremonies of mourning. I stand alone on the edge of the city, where the ruins meet modern constructs. I feel the weight of loss settle into my bones. The scars that this city bears are deep and unhealed. They remain open, sore. Am I enough to close these wounds? Will the scars that remain behind plague this city? Eventually, I return. There is a lot to think of and a lot to do. I hope that I am enough to do it all. And that is where we are going to end this prompt. So, I'm going to check off that alone in a crowd. And we end with Kestrel returning home for the evening, heavy with the weight of loss that the city has poured out into this ritual of the fall day. Thank you for joining me today. I am very excited to see what happens with the next cards that we pull, and so we will return to this next week. Please let me know if you like this format of doing the two prompts per episode, if you would like to see more or less. And let me know what you think so far of Kestrel's story and of what we're unraveling of the city of Koriko. It is a sadder story than I expected it to be, but I think that in the end, I really hope that we have a happy ending for the city of Koriko and for Kestrel. So thank you again for joining me, and we will see you next time for the next two draws of the Arrival volume. Thanks so much. Bye, guys.